Hey guys, it's Alex coming at you from the VMP Ranch. Today, what I want to talk to you guys is about cold airs and how the aftermarket is really understanding what tuners and other people need to see and have done on certain parts to make them work well. Number one, have them be functional, work well, and have them be tuning friendly. Now, if you own an S550 2015 and up Mustang, you're in luck. The parts development is really ramping up, and in my opinion, it's a good place to be. So if you own a positive displacement S550, whether it be a Roush supercharger or like this car, the VMP supercharger, this is most likely the airbox you have. Okay, it is a 110 millimeter airbox, closed, similar to a Roush setup. Roush uses a similar airbox. Now, if Roush knows what they're doing, they enclosed this for a reason. A lot of people say, well, if you take the lid off, it'll get, a little more power, and they're right, because there's less restriction in there. So they would take the lid off at the track, but then what happens is you don't want to put it back on because you don't want to sacrifice that extra 5 to 10 horsepower that it gives you when the lid is off. But what happens? Drivability suffers, and it suffers big time, because stock Mustangs usually have an open area here in the hood, almost like, and it gives it like a ram air effect. And these cars have really sensitive MAFs. Okay, if you're shoving air into them, like forcing them in, and the turbulent air is kind of swirling around and doing a bunch of funky stuff, the car wigs out a little bit. It doesn't drive well, just normal driving conditions. When it comes to wide open throttle doesn't matter. Sucking in all the air, it doesn't matter. But your fueling tends to be a little inconsistent. Okay, so again, Roush and VMP use a similar air box for a reason. Keep IATs low. And to keep any turbulent air out of that. The problem is, if you wanted all the air, all the flow, obviously a bigger housing was the solution. So things like this was a slight solution. It's just crowbarring something into the stock airbox, stock location, that had a bigger MAF housing. This is a 120 millimeter housing, and you can tell the tube is still the same tube. There was some jerry-rigging that needed to happen to make this go in, but it ended up making more power. Problem is, it didn't drive so well. Why? Because it's an open-air element. And if you see the stock hood on Mustangs, they have this little opening here. Don't mind this, but they have a little opening here that when you're driving down the road, it can cause a little turbulence. So, what has the aftermarket done? Thank goodness. They've come up with a solution where it gets flow, it gets covered up, basically the cold air, and it looks good. That's kind of the hard part, making that covered filter look halfway decent. So this is the first, I don't want to say production because it's not really production, the first Pmas housing for S550 Mustangs. It's 120 millimeter. I still have to, pretty up the clamps and everything. We just kind of threw it on there last night just to kind of see what it would look like and how it would fit. The tube is really smooth, especially this guy right here. As a tuner, when you see this, you're really happy because you know that IATs are going to be low. It looks great, by the way. Pmas made this see-through, and I'm sure in the future you can get color options. So if you have a blue Mustang, a white Mustang, you can get this painted in that color. You might be able to get some kind of etching in here for you hard parkers that want to put, like, your club name or your car or your blower, whatever. I'm sure it's super upgradable. Now, this one happens to have the race filter, which is basically a piece of mesh. But we wanted to just test fit it on, and it does a real good job. Right here, it's totally sealed from the engine bay, so IATs will be low. But there is an opening on S550 Mustangs way down there, and the filter is open in that area. I don't know if I can get in there, you can see real well, but it is open in that area, and you should be able to draw all the air in there. Why from that area and not from the front? Well, there's a fan in front of these guys that is very strong, and one of my customers, Ben Calamer, ended up retrofitting a Cobra Jet intake onto his car without a shield. What would happen is when he would start it in the morning, car would start fine. Once the fan kicked on, once the engine coolant temp got up to like 180, the car started stumbling and acting weird. The moment he put his shield around it, he's like, oh my God, it literally IATs went down to 20 degrees, and the car didn't stumble anymore, because that's a strong fan, and it ends up pushing air into the MAF area and wigging the car out a little bit. So If you're in the if you're in the S550 game, positive displacement, things like this are coming out. Other companies are coming out with similar style cold airs. This one just happens to be sealed. Looks really good. It's functional as hell, and it's exciting time. People like us, tuners that see this, are happy that the aftermarket understands what needs to happen. IATs are low, a ton of flow, 120 millimeter. It will definitely make more power, and looks halfway decent. So you guys are in luck if you have an S550 blower car. Companies are starting to take note of what needs to happen and make the products look really good. Talk to you guys later. How do I sign off like this?